Now to the bipartisan group of senators continuing to inch closer to a deal on border security and foreign aid after months of negotiations. But House Republican leadership and former President Trump continue to try and thwart the legislation. Speaker Mike Johnson issued a statement criticizing President Biden's support of the bill, saying the president already has the power to act without this proposed legislation.
That is his new excuse to stab Ukraine in the back and let fentanyl flood across the border.
Take a listen to what Senator James Lankford, the lead Republican negotiator, had to say about the package, followed by what President Trump said on the campaign trail.
This bill focuses on getting us to 0 illegal crossings a day. There's no amnesty. It increases the number of Border Patrol agents. It increases asylum officers. It increases detention beds so we can quickly detain and then deport individuals. It ends catch and release. It focuses on additional deportation flights out. It changes our asylum process so that people get a fast asylum screening at a higher standard and then get returned back to their home country.
In the House, as you know, the Speaker, who's, by the way, I think he's going to prove to be a very good Speaker. It's tough when you have a very small majority. Very tough. Mike Johnson, Speaker, he just said it's dead on arrival in the House. It's dead on arrival. We want either a strong bill or no bill, and whatever happens, happens. But this is the single greatest threat to our country right now.
Well, it's Jonathan Lemire. That's what Republicans have been saying, the border crossings. And yet Donald Trump is saying, keep the border open. Keep it open for another year. Don't do any deal. And there you heard James Lankford go down item after item after item after item, proving this is the toughest border security deal ever. And yet Trump is opposing the conservative deal, just like he hopes the economy crashes, as he said, because he wants there to be a depression before he's president.
It is some of the most nakedly cynical politics we've ever seen, that Donald Trump is actively rooting against the country for his own political benefit, whether it be about the economy and certainly here at the border. And as you know, Senator Lankford is about as conservative as they come. And we heard him and other Republicans in recent days all say the same thing from the Senate. Lindsey Graham, John Thune, others say, this is a really tough deal. We're not going to get a better deal, even if we win back the majorities and the White House next year. So we should take this deal, but at least for now, much of the House and some of the Senate seem cowed by Donald Trump. And let's bring in congressional investigations reporter for the Washington Post, Jackie Alamay, to give us an update on negotiations. But Jackie, I mean, you're so plugged in, but what I heard over the weekend is just that there's a lot of pessimism right now that we might see the draft text, we might see the Senate bill in coming days, but there's real concerns that it won't get through the upper chamber necessarily, and forget about the House.
That's exactly right, John. We're going to see this text that lawmakers in the Senate chamber have been working on for months now, along with Department of Homeland Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. But there might not be a vote that will materialize due to concerns over taking a tough vote that's ultimately set up for failure in the House. I mean, I talked to one House Republican who's involved with these conversations between Trumpland, the Trump campaign, and House Republicans who said that if it were up to Trump in several months, the government would be shut down and no border deal would be done, and that Trump's catchphrase would be Joe Biden, open the government, shut down the border, and he'd repeat it over and over and over again. What you're seeing is raw politics at play here. Trump not wanting this border to go through, and Republicans worried that it's going to ultimately cause them their seat and electoral demise if they go against the de facto nominee of the Republican Party, who's so vehemently campaigning against this deal right now. Democrats, of course, see a bit of an opening here. While it's very politically tenuous for them, and tricky for some of those, for some more liberal Republicans, Democrats, people who represent border states, to support some of these, as you noted, very tough provisions. They also realize that it's going to be hard for Republicans to campaign against the message that Republicans are against catch and release, shutting down the border if there's over 5,000 illegal migrations a day, that it's more difficult to get asylum. There's increased detention facilities. facilities. These are all things that Democrats envision could be excellent campaign talking points against Republicans if this deal ultimately fails, which right now, if you're listening to House Speaker Johnson, it seems what it's destined for.
Yeah, what I don't get about Speaker Johnson, Joe, is that, like, you give the list.
Right.
We all do the list. Nikki Haley even does the list now of all the losses Donald Trump has brought to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Loss after loss after loss. Do we now need to make a long list of losers who have basically bended to Trump's every whim, only to find that he'll turn around and kick you in the face a day later if he feels like it?
I don't understand it.
What does he? What does he think he's getting?
I don't get it because he ends up throwing everybody overboard. By the way, here's Nikki Haley. On the deal.
My message to Republicans is do not leave D.C. until you finish the job. And Donald Trump, the last thing he needs to do is tell them to wait to pass a border deal until the election. We can't wait one more day, but they do need to get this right.
So Nikki Haley's telling the
contrast.
truth. Yeah, Nikki Haley's telling the truth there, Charlie. They need to pass the deal that Langford and the other conservatives like John Thune call the toughest border security bill ever. But Nikki Haley over the weekend also talked about Trump being in decline. You know, we've seen his middle decline. She talked about how, the verdict. She's talking about a lot of things. Finally, we have a Republican candidate that's actually talking about the person they're running against.
We do, and I'm mildly surprised that Nikki Haley has chosen that lane since she's chosen so many others in the past. But to your point, and what Jonathan Lemire described as the naked cynicism of the border politics is really extraordinary. And I'm so glad that you played Senator Langford's soundbite because, it is a conservative Republican dream. I mean, this bill gives them one of the biggest wins they've ever had, and they're about to tank their own agenda. And listen to what they are saying. They are saying that the border is an existential crisis that has to be dealt with right now. And what are they doing? They're basically saying we're going to do absolutely nothing because Donald Trump is telling us to do nothing. We're going to abandon Ukraine. We're going to leave the border open. At the moment of international crisis, we are going to turn our backs on any possibility of bipartisan compromise. It is really an extraordinary moment in terms of the raw cynicism. And again, the bill is a win for Republicans in their own terms. You listen to Senator Langford running down that list of what's doing, and you have to ask, what is it that you don't want other than to tick off Donald Trump? And there's really no answer to it.